Collective Awakening podcast.
Sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening.
With Chris and Stephen. Welcome, friends, to the Collective Awakening podcast. Thanks for being with us again, and we're looking forward to another great episode. Myself and Stephen here together from the Purple Mountain, and we welcome Louie Cooper, who we met actually last year at a men's gather event in Cumbria, and it was actually our first experience of one of these men's gather events. We really enjoyed the weekend. Lou was only with us for a couple of days, but it impacted us for sure, of his presence and some of the work that he conducted, which we're going to get into. So it's great to have you with us for this episode.
Cheers, Chris. Good to be here, brother.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I feel it'd be a good thing to just dive in to that, because you are a Wim Hof trained instructor now as well. And you're doing that cold water therapy and the breath work as well. And just maybe if you could speak on that work a little bit and the work you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, well, on a personal level, I've been using cold water therapy and breathwork practices for the best part of 4 years now. And yeah, when I first discovered cold water, the feelings and sensations it gave me, you know, that power within, that ability to really just embrace that discomfort and the warmth that you can generate within you, it just like flicked this switch within me. And since then, you know, I've just been wanting to explore that more and more, and taking people on the journey along with me, kind of discovering their power, which started as just like the occasional Sunday morning meetup, going around to a load of Yorkshire water reservoirs, having a little dip in those, and yeah, and practicing a little bit of breath work. And it's only you know, that went on for a few years, and it was just like a labor of love, really. You know, never charged for it. It was a bit of, this is where I'm going, come along if you want to come. And the amount of people which would all just end up coming along, but you know, there was some Sundays I'd rock up, there'd be 15, 20 people. It's like, this is wild. You know, there's a real call and a real demand for it. So yeah, last year I decided, right, I'm gonna take this a bit more serious now, and you know, start to learn a lot more of the science behind things. And you know, because I knew by feeling what was going on, I didn't necessarily truly know. You know, in all honesty, it never really interested me. I just knew it was good. And then I decided to go on the Wim Hof. It was an experience out in the Pyrenees Mountains, so for 5 days, 4 nights, and went, had an incredible time. A bit of a personal breakthrough came on, and just decided, right, well, let's take it to the next level. Let's go do my instructor training. So that was in November, just gone last year, out in Poland. Another 4-day retreat with a few tests and some old challenges out in Poland that were very, very cold. And yeah, really pushing ourselves into the depths there. And yeah, since then become qualified, and now running cold water and breathwork workshops, doing just doing 2 of them a month. One of them which is all outdoor, like in nature, wild swimming, and then one of them which is indoor in a yoga studio, but we've got an ice bath outside. So yeah, 2 different ways of getting into the cold and enjoying the breath work. So that's the current offering.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And what was sort of, before you sort of got this calling really for that work, what was life like before? What sort of led you to that path? That was there a certain moment when a sort of switch went, or life took you in a different, started pulling you in a different journey, a different pathway?
Well, yeah, that's a funny one, really. I think it's maybe not like one significant moment, but
Yeah.
You know, a series of events kind of leads you onto the path which you're going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was, and I still am. Like, I'm entrepreneurial, so I have, I have a restaurant of my own, which I started in 2019. I'm involved in the family coffee business as well. So a lot of my 20s was quite, I say, kind of career focused, and a bit, not in a shallow way, but a bit money focused as well. I were determined to be successful in a financial and entrepreneurial way. And yeah, there's still part of that, but it's no longer ego driven. It's no longer, I don't need money to be fulfilled or happy. So if you can hear Nessie, I've got a dog in the background, and she's wanting a bit of attention.
We don't mind. She's welcome.
uh, she'll chill out in a sec. So yeah, so for the cold water aspect, like I said, I discovered that about 4 years ago, and it was a friend of mine who's he's a PT coach, does online training now. He's called Nate Cook, brilliant guy, and he'd obviously been looking into it and just says, "Oh, do you want to give this cold water a go?" And without much thought or anything, I just went, "Yeah, sound, let's do it." Really, I've always been a bit of a, yeah, fuck it and think about it later kind of dude. And so I just rocked up, and it was in February, and it were freezing, sideways rain, and it was a guy called Kevin. He's got a company called Brevolution. Great guy, got heaps of knowledge, and yeah, he did a little bit of breath work for us, then took us out into this reservoir. And I mean, fellas, it were freezing. Like, I just weren't used to this cold ever. I just remember being like stood in this water, just like going through hell. And then just after like a minute or so, like of that real discomfort, just this kind of sense of peace just kind of overwhelmed me, and just stillness. And it's like, oh, right, okay, like I'm actually all right now, and I mean, getting out of the water, like I said, sideways rain, it was freezing. I'm wet through. I'm in my trunks, and I was red hot. I felt like I could have been in Spain. Like the warmth my body was generating, and it were there, and I was like, wow, like there's really is something in this. It's incredible what the human body is capable of, and that came at a real good time for me, because that was, I always get my timings mixed up here, but I think it was either during us or partly before all the COVID-19 breakout. So cold water for me was very much my escape of the craziness that was COVID. We won't go down that path, because it might take, this podcast might be a few hours then.
Yeah, we know where you're going, don't worry.
Yeah, I don't want this podcast getting taken down. And so that was very much my personal way of dealing and coping with the madness which was going on. And so it became my therapy, which I didn't know at the time. That's just what was happening. I look back on reflection and go, wow, like that all aligned at the right time for me. And yeah, how's the kind of the coaching aspect and whatnot came about, where I decided New Year's Day I was going to go for a cold water swim, and thought that'd be a good way to do New Year's Day. So I text and message a few people and whatnot. Yeah, we'll come. So I think there was about 8 people. We're all going to meet New Year's Day morning, start the year off right. And it gets to that morning, and it was funny. One by one, I get a text message, I'm not going to make it, or, they just not looked at the phone this last night. There was a few sore heads, and I realised, right, okay, it's just me this morning. And that was like a real download of, yeah, you need to honor showing up for yourself just as much as you do showing up for other people now.
Yeah.
And it was a miserable morning, but just soldiered through it into the reservoir. And whilst I was in the water, I had this kind of like, a bit of a download, or I don't know what, where it comes from, but it was like a challenge for, right, I'm going to do this every single day in January, and just put it out there, put it out there on social media, because social media, I think it has a lot of negatives, but also used in the right way can have a very positive impact. So it was like, right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put it out on there and just see what good vibes we can create. And committed to do it every day in January. And every single day, somebody was there with me. Sometimes there'd be 3 or 4, it might just be me and another person, but every single day throughout January, somebody showed up. And for me, that was just like a boom. There's people want to do this, and they want to get out in the wild. They want to feel human again. They want to try this and just connect. So yeah, since then it was just like a few Sunday meetings, and it just grew organically. And what I was delivering, what I was doing, has also then just changed and grown and developed over the years. So it's like I said, not just one pinnacle moment, just I think lots of little bits of evidence, and getting the feedback from people and seeing significant change and the impact it has on people just kept on feeding that fire to keep on going ahead with it and keep on moving forward.
Yeah, progressive journey.
Very.
I'm going to hand over to Stephen.
Yeah, I've got loads of questions for you, Lou. Yeah, so there'll be people listening to the podcast that perhaps are interested in cold water therapy or might be inquisitive, and I think it might be quite interesting for people to sort of know what actually happens to the body. What happens? We'll talk about the mind later on, but what happens sort of the science part? What actually happens to the body when you go through? There's a lot of pre-preparation, with the breath work and then submerging then in the cold water. So what sort of maybe describe the process of a cold water therapy if somebody wants to book on with you or with somebody else? So what happens to the body in the process?
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, what you just mentioned there, about doing the breath work before, that's a great modality to pair with cold water, but they also can be done separately, and quite often are as well. So the reason why we did the breath work when you fellas came with me to the Lake District that one time was, we touched upon it just before, was how it just prepares the mind as much as anything else. Gives you that element of stillness, connecting with the breath, connecting with the body. Let that little chimp mind switch off to prepare yourself to, get into the discomfort. So for me, like that's predominantly what the breath work does, and that's why we do it before the water. Cold water therapy itself, like I said, can be done with or without the breath work. If you're looking at it like a factual way of, well, why should I do this? What am I going to benefit from? I mean, there's heaps of benefits, and that could be anybody who's struggling with muscle ache or muscle pain. It's a great recovery process for that. Any inflammation of any kind. So it creates cell proteins within the body, anti-inflammatory proteins. Does the cold walk. Essentially, you're putting yourself under acute stress, and you're stimulating adrenaline and cortisol, which we all know. And we all hear those words, and like, whoa, we don't want that. You're right. You don't want that like throughout life in a big doses, but in acute measures, in the right scenarios. The body creates them for a reason. It's a survival mechanism. It's that fight or flight. So when we're getting into cold water, like very cold water, we're activating the sympathetic nervous system. Yeah. So all the benefits that you're going to get the cortisol, you're going to get the adrenaline. Your body is going to go into that survival mode. That's why we're able to sit in extreme circumstances and then get to a point of calm and stillness. The body then starts to do the work for you. A lot of the reasons why people get I was going to say hooked to it, but I don't know. I don't want it to sound like it's some sort of party drug. It's not. It's a lot better than that. It's the feel good hormones you get as a result. The serotonin and the dopamine rushes that you have as a result from cold water. You might have heard this before. It's a pretty well known fact. If anybody has looked up, I mean, you get from cocaine, you get a 200% dopamine hit. From cold water exposure, 5 minutes, you get a 250% dopamine hit.
Wow.
So, I don't know about yourselves, but I've got a lot of friends who in the past and still now, they're still living that life of, when it gets to the weekend, they're to the alcohol, they're to the drugs, and they're stuck in this rut of needing those highs by putting God knows what through the nose. This is a natural way of getting those feel good hormones in the body, but it lasts 4 to 6 hours afterwards as well. So you really do ride this high without a come down. So that for me was the real attraction at the start. I had none of this knowledge at the start of it. I just felt it. Once I get out, my body would be electric. I'd feel alive. I'd be alert. I just, I was radiating love and all that good energy. And I just like to ride that wave. So, it's as much as about feeling good, but then for your body as well. It's great for the circulation system. It's great for the respiratory system, your immune system. There's heaps of benefits of, what your body creates as a result of this acute stressor. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And also he's talking about the mind side as well. That I've got a few friends that do cold water therapy, and the sort of the positive mental impact, particularly in a society that the sort of the mental health pandemic seemed to be quite sort of persistent in society now, particularly with the mental health. And I think things like cold water therapy that are natural, safe, very organic. So on the mental health side, do you think there's a lot of positive things that are helping people with the mental health side? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. It's building that mental resilience. I find there's so many teachings that the water gives us, which you can then implement into your life going forward. If you're able to sit in ice cold water and bear that discomfort, but just trusting in your body, trusting in yourself that you will get through this, and through the darkness, through the discomfort and all that toughness, like there's a light. And it gets better. Nothing is forever. So just like this pain, just like this discomfort, it doesn't last forever. You will get through it. So it's great practice, but it's also great teachings to kind of help you understand and put in perspective for life. Because if you're going through a bit of a tough time and everything's a bit dark, you feel weighed down and you can't really see your way through it, great. You're in that stage where you are being molded into the person who you're in that growth state. Because otherwise, like if we're always in comfort and life's always easy, we end up going backwards. We ain't going forward. So I think the water it certainly taught me that, and I see that in a lot of people. It builds a lot of confidence, builds a lot of resilience. And like I touched on before, it could be that serotonin dopamine high, which they've been getting from other places. It could be from social media, it could be from narcotics, substances or methods in the past which aren't actually beneficial for you, and then you do it in a healthy, sustainable way. So anything that looks after this and the body, it's just making room then for you to then do the work on the soul.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you mentioned about trusting the body, and I think and I feel as well, we work with a lot of clients that have such a disconnection with the body. They don't, they're allowing fear, a lot of fear and pain, a lot of pain and disease to control them. And I feel the body is thy temple. that realignment between the mind, body, and spirit. And I think tools such as the cold water therapy really helps people connect, realign, and trust the body. And I like the way you said about, it is when you get uncomfortable. I know that I grow the best when I am uncomfortable. And I remember when we were at the retreat and I did the sweat lodge, and I don't do heat at all, but I knew. I sat there and I meditated. I used my breath and I stopped. Never done a sweat lodge before. Stopped from the beginning right to the end. And I was so proud of myself because normally I don't do heat at all. But I knew that I was going to be, I'm safe, I'm trusting, not just myself, but the person that's holding space. And that uncomfortableness is not going to last forever. that will pass. And I had such a positive experience, same as the cold water therapy. So it's very transformative. I feel doing things like cold water therapy and things like that. So I'm going to hand over to Chris. Do you
Yeah,
want to ask
and
anything?
it's something that I'm noticing more and more because the sort of period of time you talked about, the 2020, said it a couple of times the last few days. It feels like in the last 3 or 4 years that we've possibly had like 10 years worth of living. A lot of people. There's a lot gone on, and what's nice to see is you seeing cold water therapy everywhere, and a lot of people seem to use it to not only itself to get discipline, but they set a time like doing it every morning or doing it a certain time of day, to keeping themselves on track, almost like you would a meditation, like keeping it as a discipline that
Mm.
seems to really be very positives for people's mental health and keeping them, keeping themselves on track.
Yeah, I see that. It's a tough old discipline. I have an old whiskey barrel conversion outside of my house, and look, I can call myself a cold water coach, and I still get in front of that barrel some mornings and think, oh, I do not want to do this. I've spent more time looking in the barrel from outside than I have done in the barrel on some occasions. And I've told people that before, and they're like, "Whoa, like you seem so calm and so peaceful." Yeah, but sometimes, we're all human. Sometimes we get in our own way, don't we?
Yeah,
And we can't always be that strong, like set on version of ourselves. That's why using it as a discipline, like you said, Chris, it's making it a non-negotiable. I'd like to say I do it every morning. I don't. Some mornings just don't work and it don't feel right. But I get in there every day. So this morning it wasn't for me this morning. Feeling into the body, it's not what I needed. Been out all day, just got back in time for this. So now I know after this podcast is done, I'm out in the dark, it's raining outside, I'll be getting in that barrel. It's that showing up and that commitment for yourself. So every time you get in and when you find that stillness, that beautiful place, I don't find that anywhere else. That place in the mind where it's just still, the body just feels alive and just at that stillness, that peace. And then the feeling I've got afterwards, man, like there's just no parent with me. So yeah, using it as a discipline helps for a lot of people. And
yeah, I like what you've said there as well. I really like that because we've seen it, with people we met and really experienced it ourselves over the years. With could be anything, breath work, meditation, cold water therapy, and it's good to have that discipline. But I'm so pleased you said like my body didn't feel it was right for that day, or it wasn't right for that day. So we're not there to hold ourselves to things just because we should, but because it feels right. And I feel that's so important with anything. Sometimes, like, I've seen this with friends of mine where they might do something out of obligation almost.
mm,
They say, no, if it really doesn't feel right, maybe not today, but then back on it tomorrow.
yeah. And sometimes if you take that day off and you then realize that, it gets to the night time or gets to the end of the day and you feel like a bit agitated or just something ain't right, it might just take you doing that for you to realize how important it is for you as well. like a little
Yeah,
gentle
definitely.
reminder. I've certainly experienced that. And when I've been away, like on holiday, I went to Costa Rica for a few weeks in January. And you can imagine the sea's not too cold out there, and neither are the swimming pools. And I could feel like a change, like my body was longing for it, needing it. And yeah, a miracle on a beach somewhere, and there was a gym and had an ice plunge. I was like, this is a gift from the gods. And I really and I craved it. I needed it by then, you know. Whereas sometimes, especially during the winter and it's dark, especially in the mornings and the evening, you're right. It's a bit of it felt more like a chore some days
Yeah.
instead of yeah, I'm excited because it's going to help me with this, this, and this. Nah, it was all mental. So taking it
Yeah.
away for a little bit then brings back a little bit of the joy and the pleasure of it. And I know that sounds wild for anybody who's never tried getting in cold water before. The thought of that actually being pleasurable, like trust me, it is. It's one of
Yeah.
those things like.
Absolutely. And Sumit, I want to just well, the first thing I want to ask is how long, if somebody was looking to like step into cold water therapy, or a lot of people are buying their own, aren't they, and putting it in the garden and little
Yeah, man.
setups, or buying like barrels and stuff. How long would you say is a good time to sort of submerge yourself where you've done
For
you
a
know,
beginner, like if it's your
yeah,
first time, 2 minutes, that's the magic number.
6 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's long enough. It usually you start to see within everybody's different. So it's a bit of a general rule, but usually after 30 seconds to a minute, that's when the body starts to take over. So by focusing on the breath throughout, that's what I'm encouraging them to do. So real calming breaths. That's when the body seems to get to that state of relaxation where where the breath comes back down to a still state. So it then means people can then have that about a minute's time in that state
Yeah.
before taking them out again. If it is your first time, that's the number. I see people, it gets competitive, doesn't it? And ego gets in the way where they start
Yeah.
timing it, and it's I did X amount at this temperature. I don't have a watch, and I never time any of my dips. I never time any when I've got people with me either. It's all intuitive. It's all done on feeling, knowing when the time's right for that person, and know when it's right for yourself. Because sometimes you can get in, and it could be 4 or 5 degrees in the water, and you could last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes easy. And then sometimes it could be 7 or 8 degrees, and it gets to 2 minutes, and you're ready to get out. So I think it's
Mm.
just you're a different version of yourself each day, and you need a different therapy on each day as well. So for me, I got rid of all of like the looking at the clocks, looking at times, looking at temperatures, and just try to tune back in with the body, knowing what that needs on that day. And then I can do the same for anybody who comes along with me. I can connect in and tune with them, knowing where they're at. And yeah, I usually have pretty good gauge of what around 2 minutes is anyway. So it's there or
Yeah,
thereabouts with me.
that's great advice for anyone. I think I had to build up to a minute at first when I went in the first time.
Y-
I think a lot
Yeah,
of us we sort of had we bought a cold water sort of tub, and we had our first experiment into it, and I think a few did past a minute actually, but we built it up. So yeah,
yeah. Which I've
couldn't
seen. I've seen people do. I've seen people do, and it's I. If you're going out and getting in cold water, like kudos to you. Like it takes bravery, it takes courage. Don't matter how long you do it. Stepping in's the hardest thing. So brilliant. I would always encourage you to at least get 2 minutes, just because that is when the body really, when the body starts to climatize, that's when it's then going to start to produce all those feel good hormones. You're going to get all those benefits. If we're just dipping in and out within a few seconds, it's just going to be a bit of a rush, and you're not going to get much for it. So it is one of those where I'm afraid you do have to stick it out for just a little bit just to get all the benefits from it. But yeah, you
absolutely.
need 2 minutes. You're good. You know.
Yeah, and I just want to share sort of the experience that we had with yourself while we were on the men's gather event that we went on last year, in which myself and Stephen had done cold water therapy a few times, but never really done a lot of breath work before. We had used the breath and we do a lot of breath work at the Purple Mountain, and really a big. Uh, we use it in everything we do. We just think that power of the breath. You know, when you mention nothing lasts forever, it's going to pass, and I think the breath takes you through. If something feels overwhelming, it'll always take you through. It'll center you a bit. But when the experience we had with yourself, that we used the breath work and some of the movements as well, and it really, for me, calmed me and took away a lot of that. We sort of stood over or waiting to get into the water, and you can be panicky a bit. I didn't have any panic, and we actually all as a group, I don't know how many of us were there, maybe 15, maybe more around there, and we
I think there
all
was about
walked in
30.
together. Yeah,
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 there was.
correct. So that's my memory for you. Yeah, there was a lot of us, but we were all doing these moves. It's great, and then we all walked in together, and it was really calming, and it was amazing, and it was so for us on that, a totally different experience in that. So anybody listening, if you haven't, if perhaps you've, I would encourage anybody to seek out, doing it as a group. We can, whether it's local to
Yeah.
you or travel. I think it's a very different experience, and it's the connectivity with everybody else, because there was a moment when we sort of turned into children a bit and started like celebrating almost, and that was a wonderful moment as well.
Yeah. There's something extremely powerful about doing it as a collective. And I see it and feel it during the breath work a lot. There's a lot of breath works which I've done, which I'm like, shit, I wish I was laid down with those guys doing this right now, because these guys are on a journey. There's I've practiced breath work myself, and I've done it in groups. And when you're in that group energy, when you're all breathing together, it's just it's on a different level. I can't tell you why that is. I think it's just, the energy of everybody else around you. It's like this collective synergy of power which you get from the breath, and it's it's almost like egging each other on, when you can feel and hear other people going deep with the breath around, and it kind of encourages you to push through that as well. So I feel like breath work, especially in a group, it takes you further, it takes you deeper into that space. Um, and yeah, I guess the cold water as well. Like you mentioned, the thoughts, the chimp in the mind is quiet, and they disappear. And if you do it in community and you're doing it with other people, it's like I touched on earlier. You're getting out of your own way, aren't you? It's like, well, everyone's doing it. Let's all go in, get in together, and let's make the most of it. And ain't that beautiful? It brings out that childhood kind of like play
Yeah,
within us all, which is suppressed in a lot of males. And when a lot of grown up dudes can get together and enjoy life in the present moment, I feel like that's one of the best medicines that we can take, right?
yeah, absolutely, and
Absolutely.
really,
I just want to ask as well. Do you think, Lou, what do you recommend? What's your thoughts? Do you prefer the ice baths, or do you prefer going to a lake? Do you prefer the sea? Is there a difference energetic? Do you feel? You talk
Yeah,
about energy. What's your thoughts on that? Different types of waters.
I'd say try all three. But you're right, that there is different energy in them all. When you go, so I mix it up personally. Like I said, I've got the tub outside. I do ice baths for classes, which I always get in the ice bath with them and embrace it. Go wild swimming and the sea, and they're all different experiences. So, when you're moving water and still water, that changes the dynamic massively. So when you're getting in the still water, just like the ice bath and the barrel, it allows you to get that place of stillness very quick. To connect in with the breath and shush the mind. Whereas when you get in the sea, you've got those crashing waves coming and hitting you. You know, you've got the energy of the ocean playing a big significant part. You can't sit and get into that meditative state while you've got waves coming over your head. So it's a whole different type of challenge, isn't it? And there's also a different element versus sat down or, you know, like half stood up in a tub versus like we did in a lake where you get to, you know, expand and go for a little swim and open up the limbs and feel, you know, free. And so once again, I guess it's feeling into what you need. If you need that little bit of freedom just to go explore and enjoy yourself in a lake, in a reservoir somewhere, will, you know, give you that. If you need a little, the stillness and the quiet, being in a tub, being in an ice bath, it propels you into that space. Or if you want that energy, that surge, that like kind of feeling of, woof, I'm here, I'm present, you know, connecting in with the sea and the energy that she brings in, it's just, it's beautiful. I'm a few hours away from the sea, but I know that if I was closer, that would probably be where I spend most of my time. You know, there's a beautiful energy that the ocean brings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
you
don't
love it, really.
appreciate. We look the centre's literally only where we run our health and wellbeing centre. Literally, it's less than a minute walk from our where we are. We don't appreciate it as much as we love going for walks every day. But
Yeah.
you inspire me, Lou. I think I might tomorrow morning get on that beach, jump in the water. Chris, do you want to join me? It'll be
Oh,
great.
I'm going to hold you to that, Stephen.
Yeah, man. Take your trunks with you. You got this.
Yeah, but we are like a stone's throw away, so we're very blessed that way with the water. And so many, when they visit our centre, they'll often either after they'll go to the beach, either for a walk or connect with the water as well. And you know, can be wonderful depending on what experience they've had for grounding as well.
Yeah, real
So
cleanser, isn't she? You know, washing
Yeah.
away whatever we need to let go of.
yeah,
So
very
what it
blessed
does for
that
us.
way. What I wanted to ask you is about, you know, as you sort of step further into this cold water therapy and you've exchanged with like teachers, I suppose, other people with knowledge and shared it, how have your sort of philosophies changed or have they changed? Sort of, the only way I could put it is sort of consciously. What has it opened up, or is it are things the same as they've always been for you?
It's always been changing. You know,
Yeah.
I'm fluid with it, and I feel like a lot of the experiences that I have, I'm very observant. I'm always soaking in, and if I find new ways, better ways to do something, or if something resonates with me, then I might give it a go and see if it connects. You know, I've only recently I've been doing a certain breath work in a certain style, and that's been the Wim Hof style breath work for the last 4 years. That's been my go-to. I've just recently I just tried a new breath work, a recorded one which somebody had done. I was like, whoa, wow, this is this is now aligning with me. So I think it's just, we're always going to be adapting, we're always going to be changing, evolutionizing. So yeah, not sticking to just one way of doing things and thinking like that's the way. And I've always had that kind of mindset for myself and in business as well, is that you've always got to be looking to improve. And there is always, you know, there is no perfect formula. Like it can always be adapting, always be trying new things. You know, and if it does align, if it does work, then great. You know, if you came for a cold water and breathwork session with me 3 4 years ago, it's night and day compared to now. You know, there's still my same authentic self. I'm still showing up with the same commitment and desire, but you know, I've grown and changed, and then so has the
Yeah.
practice and the method itself. I take things from teachers which I've been with, which I liked. Sometimes you learn from stuff that you didn't like as well, you know, and kind of think, oh, if I was on the other side of that,
Absolutely.
you know, I've done that, and actually I didn't quite like that, so maybe I should rein that in, you know. So you know, I think I'm always conscious of when I'm around other people who, you know, I can see are authentic and show up. That I'm a sponge for information. I'm a sponge to see what they're doing and see if it has a positive impact, and then whether I can implement that to what I do.
Yeah, amazing.
You as well, Lou, you know, obviously you work with a lot of people. Do you predominantly work with women or men? Do you do men's retreat with just water? Because when we went to the men's retreat, we found it very beneficial. And obviously, I'm talking here, and I've not got against women, but there is a lot out there that just do women's retreats. And it was very refreshing for me and Chris to be part of a men's group where we were held, supported, being held and supported in that way. Do you think men's groups are essential, are important? Do you think, or
Absolutely.
what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's important for both men and women to spend time separately to do the work so that when we come together, we're better versions of ourselves for each other. So there's time and space needed to be as a collective. So, all my the cold water tribe, which is, that's the cold water and breath work setup that I've got, that's all mixed, male, female. And that's more about community, I'd say. And, it's beautiful with the work that we do there. But like you touched upon the men's work, like that for me is just, it's like on a deeper level. There's just a little bit more in there. I did a men's only cold water and breathwork session, not consciously thinking about why it was men's. It was I was collaborating with a friend. It was all of his male online clients. They came to do that, and before we do anything, when I'm running, when I'm holding space, we always, I have a fire and we sit and we talk and, we go around the circle and you introduce yourself and you share your intentions for the day or, whatever comes up. And usually with the cold water tribe and the mixed groups, sometimes there can be a bit, some people are bringing a bit of baggage and a few emotions can come up, but that usually comes to the end after they've done the practices. Very rarely does it happen at the start. And these fellas, a lot of them had never done any breath work, they'd never done any cold water. We're talking some of them proper pub lads, 5 o'clock Friday, they're on the beers, they're watching the footy on the weekend. Nothing against that. And those type of blokes. And we're sat around the fire and we're talking, and there's tears straight away. They're opening up about past traumas, about what's going on in their life, and just this lack of fulfillment in this or the loss of a loved one. And it was, I remember being consciously sat there thinking, like, wow, there's some power in men just sitting around in a circle and just speaking from the heart without judgment. And that just happened organically. That for me, it wasn't planned. It just came out. So from there, that's what really inspired the creation of Men of Awen, which is the collaboration between myself, Joe, and Arachai. And that's to create a space, it's men's only gathers, and we're bringing all our skill sets to one place there. So there's always some form of breath work and cold water. We then got the sound therapy, which both Joe and Arachai do together, the sound healing with the didgeridoos. Arachai has like an expression of rhythm workshop. I don't know if you guys might have done that in the lakes with the djembe drums and just getting people out of the comfort zone, really, and
the didgeridoo was amazing.
Into just and most people have never experienced that before. So for me, like, it's a beautiful gift to kind of go like, oh, just come along to this, give this a go, and to be able to like put Joe and Arachai in front of a lot of fellas who I've known and let them do the work, and these guys are like, wow, blown away. And it's creating space for men to be vulnerable, and gain strength from doing so. I think there's so much fear of judgment of what a man is or what a man's supposed to be, being the provider and having these responsibilities and these pressures. And if you're not living up to it, if you're not feeling like that, that's, it's why we've got such, like you said, a mental health pandemic right now, where the shocking thing to hear is like the biggest killer of men between 18 and 40 is themselves. And
Yeah.
it just shows there's something not right with our society or the way that we're living right now. It doesn't align with men. Modern day way of living, we're not wired for this. We are wired to be in a tribe, to be in a pack, to have that collective, that group, that sense of belonging to something bigger and more than yourself. So it's so powerful and so beautiful when you can get a group of fellas away for, a day, a few days, a weekend, a little retreat like that. You guys will have known, being on the other side of it, is that you walk
Yeah.
away just like this sense of empowerment and belonging, which we just don't get in other aspects of our life. So yeah, I do think that there's time and place for us to, as men, to go away and reconnect with ourselves and to other fellas, because we then go and show up for our partners, our community, our family, our tribe, a better wholehearted version of ourselves. So yeah, man.
Oh, it's
Yes.
very, very transformative for both me and Chris. And I know how how I felt very empowered, very invigorated, and really sort of without shame connecting to my masculinity, and I think there's a lot of stuff going on in society at the moment that is sort of shaming that masculinity in men. And really, we need to rebalance the femininity and the masculinity energies within all of ourselves, both in men and in women. And for me, coming out of the retreat, which was absolutely amazing feeling, and like you said, Lou, being part of that community, there seems to be, well, for whatever reason, we don't want to get into politics and conspiracy theories and things
We
like
can
that.
go
But
there if you want, Stephen.
yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah, I'll start going on for about 2 days because I've got my
Yeah.
boxing gloves on here. But it's we need to bring back that tribe, that community, and this is what our centre, the Purple Mountain's, all about. We're just in a small fishing town in Fleetwood, in Lancashire, doing our work, creating a sacred space. The doors are open for bringing back that community, that tribe. And it's so refreshing. What you just said about the men's group, Lou, I'm saying it from my heart. You speak with such passion, and we need more men like you doing that work, inspiring people, opening up those spaces, and we're going to transform the world. We're going to help reconnect back and help heal that masculinity. I really believe that. So amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. It sounds like you're doing the good work as well, brother. But yeah, it's just to touch upon what you said of that reconnection with the masculine energy. The divine masculine power is absolutely beautiful. If you look at what our ancestors have done before us, what we're capable to do as human beings, as men, you look at all the horrors and what we're able to, the situations that we're able to put ourselves, and the darkness we're able to commit. You look back at it, and if you think about what a lot of that is, a lot of it is fueled by love. As men, we're able to put our lives on the line and protect our family, protect our loved ones, protect the women, protect the children. You're willing to give blood and take blood in order to save them. And that in itself, I just think is absolutely beautiful. It's the sacrifice of self. It's that willingness to serve and to be there for others. So in its purest form, in its purest state, the masculine energy is one to be admired. You are right that it's been, I don't know whether it's been ridiculed or whether there's some sort of sway of energy going on, and it's being made out to be somewhat evil. It's certainly not. It's that is, there's evil amongst us in both the masculine and the feminine. There's that need for power, that greed, that self-serving, that that energy is separate from masculinity and femininity. I think they both they both can coexist beautifully and balance like they always have done. So yeah, just kind of opening the space for men to step in that masculine power and realize like it's a gift. It's a gift to be proud of. I had that teaching come very clear to me during a plant medicine ceremony with San Pedro Wachuma. And on a personal level, like for years, a lot of my early 20s, I guess I was ashamed of my masculinity because I associated it with a lot of the negatives or the behaviors of my past, which I wasn't too proud of, like being unfaithful in relationships, or being violent. I used to run and work in a nightclub for 3 years. Like violence was all around me, and I was very much stuck in the middle of it, and it was a very dark, dense energy. And I'd always associated that with my masculinity. It's that ego, like needing to prove myself and be the man, and all that bullshit. It just doesn't serve you. And I got this very clear in like I said, in the ceremony, and I was going through a very tough time and a lot of darkness. And without going too deep into the whole process, coming out of the darkness, I remember just seeing this in my third eye, just like what appeared to be like this little bird, its face, and it just started to get a bit closer, and then just all of a sudden, just turned out it was this peacock, and it just, all its feathers just came up and rose, and all these beautiful colors just out of nowhere, out of this darkness. And just this teaching straight away was, this is just it's like a picture of how beautiful masculinity is. You look at the peacock, and when it shows off its feathers, it's showing off, it's proud of its masculinity. It's like saying, you need to be proud of yourself. You need to, let your masculinity shine, proud of yourself and what's within you, and let go of the past, because that's not serving you anymore. So kind of open up the feathers and shine a little more. And that came through very strong. It's always resonated going forward. That's what we've got to do as men, be proud of ourselves, be proud of who we are, let go of the shame, because that just holds us down. Don't need it.
I know we were speaking to somebody, a friend of ours, and we were talking about masculine energies, and he talked about that, particularly young boys, because in the old days, and it sort of made sense. Part of my heritage is Germanic, is German, and being a proud people, and after the war we were very shamed and felt very guilty what happened. But the sort of the Germanic, the Saxon, the Celtic culture, particularly the Native American Indians, once you got initiated, you had initiation as a young man into the community. You would have a vision quest, you would go hunting. So, but there doesn't seem to be much of that initiation in men anymore, apart from the toxic side, which is the school program, which I call it conditioning side. So there doesn't seem to be much in young men, because I always say that any kind of healing it comes down to being young boys, young men. We should, when we talk about meditation, teaching, guiding young children, start young. Don't wait till you're broken and you're carrying all this trauma into your 40s and 50s. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I think, and I wonder what your thoughts, Lou, are about initiations into society, into the community. There doesn't seem to be much out there for young men now, apart from sitting there playing computer games and social media, and that pressure, sexual pressure, political pressure, playing on the ego, the monetary side as well, work hard, earn, and all that, which is very toxic.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things for me to touch upon what you just said there, Stephen. You're right. That no vision quests, that we don't have that transition of boy to man anymore, that that sense of becoming part of the pack, apart from the part of the tribe, because we've lost that sense, haven't we? The community aspect, it's gone. It's got too big, and it's like, how do you fix that? I don't think there's one answer which kind of solves the problem for everybody and everything going forward. What I do think, and what I keep going back to, is that all we can do is focus on ourselves, can't we? That's where a lot of the healing, and that's where the work begins. So we've got to first start with bringing attention to ourselves, making space and letting go of the past of what don't serve us, and then we can then show up for the best way that we can for the next generation. And how we go about doing that's that rite of passage, the vision quest. I don't know yet. I don't know the answer. I don't know what's right for that. But if you look at what a lot of them entailed, was sending them off by themselves, spending time amongst nature and connecting to the land again. Like you just said then, like a lot of teenage boys are spending more time in the room on the PlayStations and the Xbox playing games, confined in four walls in a box, focused on a box, and just if they're not on that screen, they're on a different screen. You can see it's not really any wonder why we've got issues, is it? So I guess having young males, but females as well, spending more time out in nature, it's going to help. But we're living in a different time, and we've got to move with the times. We can't sit here and go, oh well, look at the past, they had it so much better, and we need, because there's so many beautiful and great things that we've got now in our modern day, so we've got to adapt to them. So I guess it would be spending more time in nature and being present in the moment. It's going to help, but first you got to do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I
Spot
think
on.
what stood out earlier as well when you mentioned, groups gathering together around the fire, and there's such a simplicity in that, but just when we give ourselves that time, and I hear it sometimes, and I've probably thought it myself in the past. There's a reluctancy of, perhaps protection that many of us can put around ourselves that way, to go, "Oh, it's what the people going to be like when I get there. What's this? What's that?" The monkey mind. But so many times I've seen it where people get in that space, and you find you're amongst like-minded people that we've all got a story to tell. And that happened on that men's event we went to, that there were all ages there. There were fathers and sons there. And as you went around, I had a lot of chats with people over the weekend, and I learnt something off everybody that was there. And they weren't just what was a wonderful surprise in a nice way was, I wasn't expecting, for lack of a better word, so much spirituality. And it's with everybody, but in different ways, not in the most obvious way. It's like, wow, what a story to tell. How inspiring is that? So I feel it's so important to put it out there and say, to anyone listening, and if you're feeling alone, or if you're feeling a little bit, stuck in these systems in a way, get yourself to these groups, whether it's cold water, gathering around a fire, sweat lodge, get amongst other people in the best way. And it doesn't surprise me. I've seen it, and I felt it myself when we just sit in that stillness, and you just feel this emotion coming up that you didn't even know you were pushing down. you know,
There's something about a fire, isn't there?
Yeah,
Sitting around the fire.
Always loved a fire.
Yeah, you could sit around that for hours. Like, don't that just prove like it's what our ancestors have done for tens of thousands of years before us? Like, that absolutely runs in our DNA. As a collective coming around to sit around the fire. It'll always bring us together. For as long as humans remain on this planet, there will always be humans sat around the fire. And you're right, it's just bringing that simplicity back to life again. I think that's when the mind can be still, is when we're getting rid of the distractions, bringing it back to basics again. And then I think we're making space for improvements, or to be able to let go of stuff.
Yeah, well, it's been a really amazing chat so far, what we've been able to exchange here. But what I want to ask you about actually is, like, this podcast called The Collective Awakening. And many people call this time, which I'd say really kicked in 2020 as a time of, they describe it in all different ways. I always say it's a great, interesting time to be on the earth plane.
Great time to be alive.
Yeah, I think so many of us couldn't resist the opportunity to be here when it's all happening and have the experience. But how would you describe it, the time we're living in now?
Challenge.
Yeah.
But a whole new challenge we've never experienced before as humanity. You know, we seem to be the essence of what it is to be human seems to be getting attacked from all different angles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The rise of AI, society being the way it is, social media, a controlling state, lack of community. I guess a lack of control in many aspects of our life, into our food, our water, heating, you know, the roof over our heads, being able to afford houses. The list goes on and on. So it's challenges, but challenges which we haven't faced before, really. You know, if you look at what we've had to face as humanity in the past, like your main concern was warmth, food, water, shelter. You know, you have those things, job done for the today, you know, I'm good. Now we've got all these other worries and all these other concerns, paying your rent, the mortgages, you know, the list keeps on going. So I guess it's you know, you say it was 2020. I don't think that's any coincidence, you know, given all the chaos with the COVID 19 and the vaccines. I think it, as this, you know, whatever you want to call them, this higher consensus of state authority try to, you know, control and be the puppet master amongst us all, thinking that they're going to dampen our spirits and, you know, push us down. What that actually did, it lit a fire in so many people. It made people who were just drifting by life, just unaware, suddenly awake and conscious of what's actually going on, and realizing that, you know, we only have one shot at this life in this body. You know, it doesn't need to be dictated by people we'll never meet and who don't have our interests at the best of their hearts. So where it will go, I don't know. I see like a, you know, what you call like a raising of consciousness and awareness, and it's beautiful to see. And I feel like there is no stopping that. And what that'll transpire in, I don't know. I don't know. But it's like I'd rather be awake and aware of what's going on in the background, so I can guide the path for myself and my family going forward, and lead a life which is aligned with me, and I feel fulfilled for the purpose, and I'm on this planet to spread good vibrations and do well in life in many ways for myself and others. That's it. My life's good then. I've fulfilled my purpose, and it's not going to be dictated by, you know, authority. Yeah, in all honesty, Chris, I have absolutely no idea where it's going, but I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm on the ride, and I'm going to be smiling through it, man. I'll just keep on doing my thing.
Yeah.
You remember what
do it.
Luke, what you were saying earlier on, which was something me and Chris firmly believe. The best thing you can do is be the best version you can be. Work on yourself, be in your lane, and that radiates light and love, and people will see the changes in you. And oh, what's Lou doing there? What's Stephen doing? I like to do that, and because it never in the history of the world, when I got into this work, and I'm sure you could probably relate to this as well, Lou and Chris. You're passionate and you, oh my god, this is amazing. You should try this. Come on.
Yeah.
And you know, you want to get your family and you want to get your partner, and it never ever works because they have to do it when they are ready. And it's in a way spirit, your first test, your first sort of spiritual ego test, because it's almost like you stepping in and rescuing. You have to do this because it's going to help you, and really just be the best version you can be. That's okay. Observe, try not to react, work on yourself. And when like you said, look, when you're in that state, life's beautiful. You're not bothered. Yeah, you get tested. You know, you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, you get mad sometimes. But You know, life is the way it is.
It's a constant
so that-
process, isn't it, Stephen? It's a constant process.
Yes.
And you're bang on right, man. I can relate to that. Like I remember the first time I sat with psychedelics, psilocybin, and it was just like this whole new world had been discovered. I'd let go of all of this past trauma, and I'd discovered this new way. I was just like wanting to tell everybody, you need to do this, you need to try this. Come, just trust me, just trust me. And there'd be resistance, and I'd be finding myself frustrated because it's like I can see that you're suffering. You tell me about these problems. I know how you can help yourself. And then they wouldn't, and it was like that kind of like, okay, right, slow it down. Like they've got to show up for themselves because they choose to show up for themselves. So it's got to be their choice. So you're right. Focus on yourself. Radiate that vibration. Radiate that energy, and then when people are ready, you hope that then you've attracted them through that and they go, what is it that you do again, Lou? Or what is it you've tried? And it's only then where people then see it through. Otherwise, you're taking the horse to water, man.
Yeah. I mean, when me and Chris started, I mean, I was lucky. I started my conscious awakening when I was 18, really, and during that period, I was out drinking every night, partying. I had spirituality, but in fact, I lived sort of simply a very physical life. Not very consciously awake. But if somebody came to me and Chris at that moment in time, and we wouldn't have been ready. In a way, you have to have faith in the great divine plan, because life is initiation. Sometimes you have to, through, sorry for swearing, through the shit of your life, through that trauma, it's been your initiation in your preparation to your spiritual awakening. So you have to have faith that what you're going through is for your benefit, for your growth, and that's where really deep for me, I felt last year deep gratitude that no matter how deep and dark you go in your life, it is for your benefits, for your growth, and show so much gratitude to the universe because you're growing, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I guess the hard thing is having and maintaining that perspective throughout, into. So,
Yeah.
having people around you who can remind you of that, a good support network of like-minded people, it certainly helps. I'm blessed to have that, but not everybody does, do they? So,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. All growth all begins in the dark. In every aspect of life always begins in the darkness. So you're right. What comes out after it, if you have faith and trust and believe that it's happening for you, not to you, then it will. But that's what the cold water does. Going back to the water, it's like when everything on the outside is chaotic and crazy and it's painful, and it's you can just bring the attention back in. You can focus on your breath, focus just on you, and all of that noise suddenly goes quiet. And we can implement that to our life going forward.
I liken that very much to a big thing a big passion of mine is meditation, and I meditate every single day, every single night, and the benefits and the transformation that meditation's brought. And I've read books, and I've done studying, I've done teaching, and really I've come 360, because really what I think, again, I'm not imprinting to anybody that's out there listening about and talking about meditation, just my perspective. It's meditation is just focusing on your breath and becoming present. That's all that meditation is, just presence, showing up for yourself. And after everything that I've learned, I've come back to this simple.
It's very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so mind blowing, blowingly simple. And I guess that's what water therapy is. It's like a meditation. You're becoming present with your body and your mind, which is a beautiful.
Yeah, that really resonates, man. You're absolutely right. You kind of discover whatever modality it is that takes you on, whatever you like, if it's a conscious awakening or, just, however you want to frame it. It's a funny one how it opens up these paths, opens up the doors you need to go explore and try this and try this and try this with all this intrigue and interest. But then ultimately, you're right, it comes down to it is very simple. It is about just finding that stillness, less distraction, That's so ultimately what we're seeking for and what we need as humans, that bit of time of peace and stillness amongst all the chaos.
I just want to ask you, and we're coming close to the end of the podcast, but I want to ask you from me one more question. Now, another thing we talk about, we call it the benefits of life, or the principle. We call it principles of life, and one of them is the importance of drinking enough water. You know, something that we promote, 2-3 liters of water, and the importance of Celtic salt and things like that. Do you feel sort of people don't drink enough water? And is that something that you teach as part of the cold water therapy as well, or is that something separate? What you like with water and the importance of water, does that work side by side? I don't know if I've phrased the right question there, if that makes sense.
No, I understand the question. I'm no role model when it comes to drinking water. I can easily go almost a full day and realize, shit, I haven't even had any water yet. You know, one of our family business is the coffee industry. So there's many times where I could have a coffee or two in the morning and I don't eat or drink any water, and it gets to tea time. I'm like, it's a bit of an issue, this, Lou. So I understand and appreciate the value of what you're saying there, and I've heard it too many times, and I should be acting on it, but I'm human. One thing at a time. I don't always, I'm not always showing up in the best way I can in every aspect. So I'll take that from this, Stephen. I need to drink more water.
Yeah. Well, we're all perfectly imperfect, though, aren't we? That's the thing.
It wouldn't be authentic if I just agreed with you, like, you know.
No, absolutely not. So Lou, if anybody wants to sort of connect with you, who's listening, and maybe be part of your groups, is there a way that people can do that? Have you got a website?
Sure.
Or anything?
No website as of yet, Chris. Everything I do is just on Instagram. For the cold water and the breath work, it's called Cold Water Tribe. So you can catch us on there, and that's where I post all the details about our monthly gatherings. And I also offer one-to-ones or small private groups on there as well, so you can connect to me in that way. And then for the men's groups, it's once again on Instagram, it's called Men of Awen. That's AWEN. And there we're looking to try and do maybe 3 to 4 events a year, so a bit more spaced out, but we're looking at, we've got a few days where we're going to be going to the lakes again and holding space up there this summer. So a date still to be confirmed, but going to be some deep, powerful work, but also a lot of play, a lot of fun, enjoy, and, you know, reconnecting in that aspect. So yeah, by all means, reach out on any either of those, and it'd be an honor to be able to help and serve anybody who's interested.
I think me and Chris will like to book onto that in the summer anyway.
We definitely will. We will be connected again for sure, and we will post those links as well. So if you're watching or you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you'll spot the in the details. We'll put those links in, so you'll be able to connect if you wanted to. Just want to thank you so much, Lou. It's been amazing connecting with you again, and for sharing your time with us and your experiences. And we'd love to do another again somewhere down the line where it comes.
Yeah. Well, look, fellas,
maybe do it practical. Maybe we can do it in person, and you can show us how it's done, and we can get a live feed going.
I'm up for that. Yeah, I'm up for that with it. Yeah,
that'd be it. That'd be a great episode, that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, try do a podcast whilst in an ice bath. That'd be a challenge.
Yeah. We'll just all sit in that's what we're talking.
It'll be a short podcast, won't it?
Yeah.
It would be for me. I'll be screaming.
No, fellas, it's been a laugh, and appreciate you asking me. And it's very admirable to see what you're both doing. You're obviously doing great work and having a positive impact, and good on you. You know, it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing and showing up and creating this podcast, and you know, I've got a lot of admiration for you both, so thank you.
Thank you, Lou. It's been a
Really
pleasure.
appreciate that. And thank you, everybody who's connected as well or watched. We really appreciate it. And I hope you found, if not everything that's been said, some parts that are nourishing and fit right for you, whatever that is. And yeah, continue supporting us and joining this space, and please add your comments as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences. Perhaps you run cold water therapies or you're involved in breath work and share what you have. We'd love to read that. So till we speak again, I want to send our love and say goodbye to everybody. Thanks a lot.